Folks, I saw another one of those completely false statements made on another creator's posts recently about immigration. The commenter, and I've heard this one before, was talking about mass immigration. They claimed that we're letting in millions of people a year into the country. The suggestion, of course, is that immigrants are taking over and that our government is irresponsible, that the Liberals have this dark agenda to wipe out the Canadian way of life and culture and most especially whiteness. And I've done so many videos in responses to these topics, so I'm not going to cover old ground again, but I did want to remind you of the actual facts. So here they are. Last year, Canada allowed 483,000 people to immigrate to our great nation. Seems like a big number, but what does that represent compared to the total population? Well, it represents 1.17%. But the better question is, how does this compare to other years or even other times? Well, I'll add a link in the description of this video for information about that, but I wanted to hit some highlights for you. The long and short of it is that immigration levels ebb and flow. But as a percentage of the total population, there have only been a handful of times since Confederation that this number has gone much above 1 to 1.5% of the total population at the time. 1957 was an example of that. We allowed 283,000 immigrants, representing 1.7% of the total population at the time. 1928 was about the same, 1.7%. 1927 was almost the same, and 1926 was 1.5%. In 1914, we only admitted 150,500 immigrants. Seems like a small number, but actually represents almost 2% of the total population. But 1913 and 1914 were really crazy. In 1913, we admitted 400,000 people, pretty much the same as the last 4 years. But at that time, it represented an influx of plus 5% of the total population. And in those 3 years, we added 12% of our population in immigrants. In 3 years. And more than 36% of our total population in a 10-year period from 1903 to 1913. I mean, I could go on, but I think you get the idea. So the people spreading misinformation are counting on you looking at a number like 500,000 and getting scared. Or outright lying and saying it's millions when it's not. They want you scared of immigrants, folks. They count on you not realizing it's barely 1% of our population. And that as a percentage of total population, most years our immigration numbers don't stray too far from that. But there also have been many times in our country's history, such as the 1880s, and again the early 1900s, and again in 1957, that those numbers, while physically smaller than today, represented a significantly higher percentage of the total population of Canada at the time. So as usual, they are taking the numbers out of context. That's what haters do. For them, the problem is that those previous immigration numbers represented people who are largely considered white. Let's be honest, that's their only concern now. Today, they aren't white. So they're counting on you not bothering to check for yourself. They're counting on you not being educated or intelligent enough to know better. They have their own very dark agenda. They're racist and white supremacists, without a doubt. The problem is, our net population growth in Canada on born Canadians alone is approaching 0. And with an aging population, without immigration, we'll see negative population growth in the coming years. And our population will shrink from the present 30-something million to just 12.5 million by the end of this century. We won't have enough born Canadians in the workforce to fund the social safety net, the pension plan, to drive the economy, to pay taxes. We stagnate. The people who spread this misinformation are willing to destroy Canada to protect their own skin color. And that's a fact. Peace out. And if you're not already following me, you should. It's going to be a ride.